and welcome everybody. We are here for another episode of UniEEcast, and today, I'm super excited because not only am I joined by my fellow co-founder Nick Looby, but we're also joined with our special guest today, Ryan McGee, who's going to be sharing his journey, his stories that have happened this year during 2020, and not just any normal year. We know this has been a year of ups and downs. It's a pandemic time. The word is being used left, right, and centre. And this individual that we're going to be speaking to in a very short moment has not only completed his education at university and walked away with a fantastic qualification and degree, but he's also set up a business, and now the business is starting to boom and gaining great traction. So we're going to come over and have a chat with Ryan very shortly. But Nick, welcome again. We love doing these episodes. We're getting, our followers are growing, people are engaging, we're getting questions thrown at us left, right and centre, and we're getting more sign-ups for special guests to come along and join us live on the telly, so to speak.
Yeah, it's great. It's the amazing thing that a conversation sparks another conversation and another conversation, and then some questions get raised, and then people start to answer those questions, and round it goes. Just like business should be. It's a healthy environment, despite the pandemic. The business is still doing its best to thrive, and some people achieving more than others. So it's massively interesting time to be involved in anything business-like.
Yeah, and since Nick and I got together and we banged our heads and we debated and discussed, and we come up with a concept for uni about helping universities, helping students, certainly those students that are absolutely interested in starting a business, taking a startup from that idea, that initial seed, developing and growing it. Nick and I have been working hard behind the scenes thinking, how can we reach out to universities? How can we get them engaging with us? How can we show them, the opportunity that exists? And this is why it's so exciting to bring Ryan along today, because he has been there. He has gone out there and lived at university life, probably ate pot noodles and, had the time of his life. A fantastic experience, as we all know. So Ryan, welcome to the show today, and thank you for coming along and joining us. It's going to be super exciting to hear a little bit more about your journey. So Ryan, firstly, tell us about university. You graduated this year, 2020, but tell us a little bit about, why you chose the course that you did, which is obviously around business. Tell us a little bit more about that and how it kind of formulated into, we're going to start a business in the hardest time probably to launch a business.
Probably, yeah. No pressure with that. No, great to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting me on. So yeah, university, let's kind of sum that up. So I was a business student, management scientist at Loughborough University. And as you said, just graduated this summer, 2020, online exams, all of that good stuff. I also did a placement with the Lord Mayor's Appeal, a charity in the City of London, corporate philanthropy. So took a year out almost. So that was the fourth year. So 3 years studying and 1 year in industry. And yeah, so let's backtrack, start at the beginning then. How did I come to be interested in business? Well, it was a close call. I was nearly doing English. I was nearly thinking about business. And just whilst looking around the campuses, I was thinking, okay, yeah, business is going to be the one, because I know that I want to be self-employed one day. And at that point, 2016, it was always one day, and I hope and maybe and all of these things. And I thought, well, actually, it's going to be a better grounding to have a business degree. I can develop different types of skills across business. And frankly, I think there was a position where it would make me a better employee, which I think it definitely has done. And so, yeah, then I spent that year in industry working at the Appeal. My job was a coordinator. So I was running lots of different projects, parts of lots of different initiatives within the City of London, helping corporates within the city to be more charitable, to engage with different causes, and to create some impact initiatives with our charity partners as well. And then coming into my final year, which is what's most recent, it was really about getting the degree, completing it, getting through that study. And then you come January, you come March, and COVID hits, lockdown hits, and that second semester, the graduation was postponed. I mean, hopefully it'll be in April, but we don't know just yet. And the final experience was finished up in lockdown, and that was when I started my business with my flatmate, who is now my co-founder. So there's a journey from being a friend to a housemate to a co-founder there for us as well. And so our business is House Hack, and we run innovation events to help small businesses to adapt in partnership with students to take advantage of our fresh perspectives and problem solving. So that's a summary, real quick summary of me, university, and House Hack.
Wow. Wow. So House Hack, firstly, how did you come up with the name?
The name was me, actually. I can take credit for that. Yeah, that was so Charlie, my co-founder, and I at university had done lots of different hackathon events, lots of different ways of engaging with problems, with businesses, but also a lot with fake problems. And so part of what we wanted to do when in lockdown was just put our skills to use and help small businesses, help particularly local businesses at that time to innovate and problem solve. And so that's how we came to running our first event. And when we were thinking about promoting it, to bring businesses in, to reach out to the local community, so what we're going to call this thing, we were thinking, well, we're at home. It's a hackathon event. House Hack, there you go. So yeah, simple times.
I'm loving this. As you were talking about your experiences at uni, I'm thinking, my experience at university was a long time ago, but still every day is a school day. Right? I'm always learning. I'm trying not to look away from the camera and take notes, right? So I'm thinking, yeah, that's a cool idea. I like this. And I just imagine that environment where you and your flatmate are thinking, right, don't want to be an employee. I want to run my own business. I want to be in charge of my own destination. And then the journey has begun. But Ryan, what was it that is inside of you that decided, no, don't want to be an employee. I want to be in charge of my own destiny? Because that's a bold decision.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And so I guess the credit, I think, has to go to my co-founder initially, because I think we both share the same traits, the same kind of desire to things like liberate our time from our income and be in charge of our destinies, that kind of passion for being independent and in charge of yourself. And I think that's really important. That's essential to be an entrepreneur. But whereas I mentioned that I had that experience as a year in industry, as a replacement for that year, what Charlie did was run his own business. So he, as a separate from House Hack previous, just by himself as a solopreneur, set on a journey to create a company to sell and design parcel boxes to have outside your door, so that when that annoying ticket comes and the postman can't drop your parcel, there's a box there that's security locked, etc. And so he got to a stage of that business where he had a product ready to go to market, and actually took what I see as personally a very bold and brave decision to actually close that business and say, I'm ready to go to market. I've learned a hell of a lot, but actually I'm not passionate about parcel boxes, was essentially the discussion that he had to have with himself. And so that was just as we were entering lockdown, just around March time, I believe. And so then when it came to lockdown and starting to run our first House Hack events, there was this period between kind of April when we had our first event and just around June when we eventually incorporated as a limited company, where we decided to, I guess, become co-founders of this thing rather than just run it as an event and a lockdown project. And so I do actually credit him with bringing me along with that and persuading me even more that this could be possible, and that with COVID, it was the best time to do so and make that leap. I think I was always in that position of, as I mentioned earlier, it will be someday. And it's only over the past few months that I've gone, okay, that day is now actually right now.
Yeah, and if Charlie, you're watching this, the decision to obviously pull out of, doing your secure boxes at property, was a good decision, because obviously you stopped doing it before lockdown, and then for the next 3 months, everybody was at home anyway, so no one really used their security boxes.
True.
I like the bit, obviously, where you're saying that, Charlie didn't have any passion for that particular product, so he made that sometimes a tough decision, but obviously the right decision, hopefully for both of you, because you're on your startup journey. You're building and developing and creating new relationships, very, very quickly. This is how we met, and why we're talking here
Of
today.
course, yeah, yeah.
An European networking platform where both of us were invited along as guests, and Ryan and I got having a conversation. We found out we lived in the same county, which was just ironic, and then we just saw that there was a really good reason to bring you onto the show and have this conversation. But your startup, how have you found it? You launched it in lockdown. How have you found that process? Has there been the resources out there? Obviously, you've got some great resources from university, but then there's that's kind of the theory side, etc. I know there was some element of practical, but now you're let loose. You're out there in the big wide world, and you've got to make the decisions. And are they right? Are they wrong? So, have you found that process since kind of getting your startup underway? And what have been the challenges, and what have you seen as successes so far?
Yeah, no, lots to unpack there. I think, how have I found it overall? I found it a fantastic experience in terms of learning, personal development, um, ability to, I think, show myself what I can do again. I think there's an element of a university environment, fantastic though it is quite constrained in terms of you've got your mark schemes, you've got your coursework, you know what you're doing, and there's a stepping stone of how to get from A to B. Whereas now, as a self-employed entrepreneur, co-founder, whatever definition you want to use, I have to find out what the next stepping stone is myself. And there's an element of almost returning that kind of self-belief and drive to say, okay, I can figure it out, and I have to, because there's no alternative in that sense. And so I think we're still in that transition still, I think, even 7 months in between, okay, we were a lockdown project, fine, we're now a business, we're incorporated, let's get the fundamentals right, the legals, the finances, the nitty gritty stuff that I think a lot of new business owners don't like, but I think from our business degree background, we know that we need. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to put those foundations in place so that we have a scalable business model, not just a business. That's really important for us as well. In terms of challenges and successes directly, we've broken revenue. I think we have our first customer. That's massive. I think we haven't even given ourselves credit enough for those wins, because we're still moving, we're still heading forward, and there's an element of almost cliche thoughts around getting your first client, learning how to sell in a way that you secure those first customers, so that you almost have that positive feedback loop to show yourself that what you're doing is going in the right direction. I think also on the flip side of that, what we had recently was a conversation with a prospective client that wasn't successful. And we ended up walking away and saying no to that based on our capacity, based on our pipeline of work, and some factors like that. So already we were in a position where, as co-founders, we were saying, oh, hold on, we need to already start saying no to certain things and self-manage. And I think that's a lesson as well. So I think that was definitely a challenge. Yeah, there's a few things there.
I love the courage that is evident from the very start. For a lot of people, it's a tough choice. It's a tough choice to be in control of your own destiny, but it takes massive courage and maturity to be able to say no to things that don't fit. I know when I started my first business, I probably ran around like a bit of a nutcase, saying yes to far too many things. And it probably, if I reflect, probably didn't do the business any favors whatsoever. It diluted what I guess the core aspect of the business was all about. So you're way, way ahead of where I would have been at that stage in the business. And the fact you're already talking about or thinking about scale as well. So I can appreciate that the fundamentals, massively important, but a lot of the uni work would have ticked those boxes. What do we need? What does a business formally look like? But the aspects around scale, once you kind of get comfortable with your product and your market, these are big decisions. So what does scale look like?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and I think we're still in the process of figuring that out. We're still figuring out to what extent our business model is scalable by itself as it is right now. I don't think it is. I think there's tweaks that need to be made also in terms of creating more of a vision and mission for the business so that we understand better as we work through time, not just our customer base, but who we don't want to work with just the same. I think those are important questions to ask, and we're starting to answer them. In terms of scale right now, I guess what we have is two sides of our business model. We have, or two stakeholders, if you like. We have the students who we work with, and we have the businesses that we work with. And so right now we're trying to create a business model that is a win-win on the three fronts of ourselves, students, and businesses. So there's an element of scale on both sides in the sense of, well, if we run one event right now, that's with 2 businesses and 30 students. Okay, well, if you multiply that up, that can go in a certain direction, and we can measure our success based on the number of students that we impact. It's free events for students, it's paid for businesses. So there's also, we can measure based on things like revenue, which are standard measures. But then there is also that vision and mission stuff around, well, where's the balance there? Is there an element of, we wish to achieve scale based on the number of events that we run, for example, the number of smaller businesses even that we continue to help to develop, such as what we used to be, or we are still right now in terms of a fledgling startup. So there's an element of trying to ensure that, I guess, we eat in the short term, as you might call it, that there's that element of revenue coming in, starting to get a sustainable cash flow. But at the same time, half of our mind needs to be in that longer term in terms of scale, in terms of who do we want to work with? What's our ideal in terms of, this is our niche vertical, what's our customer base? Fine, we can do all of those calculations and kind of planning and brainstorming. But actually, what's our ideal? And if we don't know that, we can't work backwards from it to where we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, we are coming towards the end of today's show with yourself, and thank you for joining us as our special.
It's been great.
It's been super exciting to hear the story. Now, obviously, I want to give you a bit of a plug here, give you an opportunity to kind of promote and reach out to the masses. So how can people get in touch with you? If people want to find out more about House Hack and about Ryan and how you can bring business and students together, what's the best ways of people getting in touch?
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate that. So the best way to get in touch with myself and Charlie is through LinkedIn. Very standard, but just Ryan McGee and Charlie Rogers on LinkedIn. And then there's also our website for House Hack as well, www.house-hack.com. And you can find everything you need on there, all the info about our innovation challenge, our talent challenge, all the different offers. We've got a blog going, all of that good stuff. So you can keep up to date with us on there.
Brilliant, fantastic. Nick, have you got any final words of wisdom or questions you'd like to put to Ryan before we close today's show?
It's at times like this, and it's very, very rare, that I wish I could turn the clock back a bit, because you sound so much more grounded in the world of business than I was for years and years and years. I'd made so many mistakes because I didn't have that kind of grounding. And it would be great to kind of turn the clock back and rediscover some of that initial kind of entrepreneurial passion that you clearly, you and Charlie definitely have. So it's just a thrill to be kind of witnessing where you are right now, and we'll definitely stay in touch and see how it blossoms, because there's massive synergy between what you're doing and, of course, what we're doing. So yeah. A great start to hopefully a long-term conversation.
For sure. No, thanks, Nick. And I think the final 2 cents I'd put in is the importance that we've found of networking and mentorship in terms of what we said at the beginning. One conversation leads to another. And I think as an entrepreneur in general, to get new business, to generate leads, but also to learn from others' mistakes, to learn from others, to how, particularly as a young 22-year-old, we know there's pitfalls, we know there's mistakes, we know we don't know it all. And it's conversations like this, it's relationships like this that we have on multiple fronts to learn from those who've gone before, who've done similar things, who are trying, who are continuing to develop their own businesses. And also, I know that as successful entrepreneurs yourselves, that's a mindset you don't lose once you have it. You know that you still don't know everything, even yourselves, with your own businesses behind you. And that's the beauty, if you like, of business and of the market, in the sense of you're continuously learning, continuously being tested. And so, yeah, if there's anyone listening who is, a student, a recent graduate who wants to start their own businesses, I think definitely the value of networking and kind of that mentorship relationship that you can build with people who've been before you in whatever industry or niche, 100% get those conversations going.
Brilliant. And that's, I think, some really great words of wisdom there for Ryan to kind of wrap up today's session. It's been a pleasure to have you on here, Ryan. What we're going to do is I'm going to pencil my diary maybe 6 to 8 months from now, somewhere around then. I know we'll be talking between now and then, Ryan. We won't lose touch in that time, but I'm going to schedule for you to come back on.
Let's do it. Yeah, exciting.
Get an update and find out how things have developed, changed, progressed, because I know you're on this really exciting journey now. The passion's there, the fire's in the belly, and I wish you and Charlie and Househack, of course, a huge success. So thank you very much, Ryan. Nick, well, we come to the end of today's show. What a fantastic guest! What a great opportunity to hear from someone young, energetic. We used to be there once upon a time. I'm talking about the young part of it, of course. We're still energetic and we've still got fire in our belly. So what's coming up next time? I know we've got some other great guests we'll be speaking to in the not too distant future. We've got the sessions booked in to record. So, what do you think next time's going to look like for us? I know we've got Marcia Baldry, I think, is going to be joining us on the show as well.
Yeah, so I think that the idea is a blend of university perspective, entrepreneur perspective, student perspective, and ideally between us we'll join all of the dots to hopefully fill some gaps, to add some value, and help those conversations kind of resonate between the people that actually need a bit of a pointer and a network of I guess experience to share the stuff that is really, really worth sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So next time on the show, we're going to have Marcia Baldry. She is in charge of entrepreneurship at Anglia Ruskin University, university that we are currently supporting. I've been supporting for many, many years, actually. And we're going to get Marcia's perspective, but from an inside point of view, from from lecturing and a member of the staffing team as one of the academics there. So we look forward to welcoming Marcia on our next show. Ryan, once again, thank you very much. From me, David Bell, and from my co-host here, Nick Looby. Thank you very much, guys. We'll catch you all soon.
Cheers.